Hi, my name is Brian D'Ambrosio, and I am going to read a couple poems from a new book of mine called Sediment and Sentiment, 21 Poems. So my background is primarily in nonfiction, as a prolific writer of nonfiction, and over the years I've gotten into writing poetry, and I've had a couple of collections that have been published, and I have a few poems that I wanted to read from the latest collection, Sediment and Sentiment, which is experimental. I've been working on a couple different things, even taking the poems and treating them more like songs or more like music and putting them in an audio CD to come. So what I've been doing over the last couple months is just getting out on the road and driving around and pulling off in certain places and just scribbling my feelings and emotions and sentiments and whatever kind of comes and pops into mind. Sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's like a mood. The word time is kind of interesting to me, I think it's interesting to everybody, how we lose track of it and, where it goes and how it kind of, it's evanescent like melting snow, and how our relationship with time. So one day I happened to be in New Mexico, and a couple things about time were starting to pop into my head, and I know that there's some, you can miscomprehend time pretty easily, you can lose time. And so here's a little bit, this one's called Time, the Setback. This was just kind of a stream of consciousness little poem that came into my head, and I've been trying to not to judge the words too much, just interpret them and put them down and share them and appreciate them. So this one's called Time, the Setback. Time, implosion, backlash, unicorn mania, funding, hype. Time, caressed by vapors, sienna reds, slippery greens, scraping the paint off with a palette knife, always reapplying pigment. Time, put the fire out. Time, the big idea. Time, to take small actions. Time, a lawyer who assembles the janitorial staff to listen to her trial summations and offer suggestions. Time, scaring the pants off the competition. Time, employed to walk door to door, clipboards in hand. Time, true and pure equality. Time, neutral expression in a black turtleneck on a plain background. Time, a swarm of amoebas, improbable objects, helmets, tombstones, small dolls with human spirits, banks, coins, cigars, wine bottle labels, airport urinals. Time, long, low pools of blue liquid with shallow hills covered with beautiful brown dust. Time, 2 nights in a 2-fireplace cabin, wiggly topography of being age 6, laughing as beauty rains down over her, glow resembles a vibrant sunset. Time, a feeling of being thwarted and a hunger to leave a mark on history. Time, rushing for the exits. Time, smiling and trying to be positive. Time, the full cost of exploration. Time, a glut poisonous to any cartel. Time, housing drug traffickers and murderers. Time, old wells run dry and aren't replaced with new ones. Time, foldable lawn chair in a game of musical chairs. Time, angry text to an ex, the hodgepodge of self-delusion. Warm weather this holiday season. Time can be like herding cats, a lost grandfather on the mind since the last millennium, a paper plate sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner. Time, short battery life, silly distractions, only a few drops of blood. Time, stationary bike and a beautiful ride, epiphany in the saddle. Time, abused position, misuse assets. Time is a shifty cook who tricked people into eating 3-day-old fish, dumped it into a stew. Time, Michigan prisoners making road signs, dental prosthetics, even correctional officers' uniforms. Time, brown hands at resort hotel, kitchen hamburgers. Time, highly suspect, charged with irony, in short supply. Time, the setback, I hear likes to windsurf. Time, still visible in the cold air. So that one's called Time, the Setback, and that happened to be, I was driving around and saw an old movie theater with an old sign that said feature ends. It was a clock and it was stuck on a certain hand, and it made me think about time, so I just scrolled all that stuff down and all those feelings down about time and what it is and what it isn't, and how we try to keep track of it, and and how we deal with it and how we interpret it and our relationship with time. So thank you for letting me share that one. I was going to share one more if I can. And this one is called the blushing type. I'm going to read this one to you. This is kind of about the heart. The heart's another thing that I like to write about as well. So this one's called blushing type. The heart can be anguished, arrogant, even silly, milling about comically, rejecting fake decorum. It comes from a repressive family that disapproves of its child's chosen profession. The heart can be tragic, trapped, defending itself with corrosive wit. It can be perfectly mediocre and a source of shame. Hard, rough, homely, flophouse grimy, hair that is blonde, but we see the dark roots. The heart can be the reality beneath the contrivance, a sideshow attraction, an ashtray full, voice roughened by decades of Marlboro Reds. The heart wigs and grins broadly, like a girl in patterned stockings, it foists drama upon us. The heart can alter the cagey mood of things, its taste Epicurean or sometimes sick, disgusted, red-faced, self-contained. The heart can be a parade of non sequiturs, always just tenuously around, one of those seething places that often reeks of sex and moonshine. Pretty and rich, but in its center we can see the duel, the virtual wrestling match. It needs a motto, puffed up with pride, swears it will never waver. Fighters like the heart aren't usually the blushing type. Some days a cheerful outlook won't do for it. Laughing and crying, a gift like this is a disguised admission. It has the stamina of the knight, alliances made and betrayed. The heart resides where crumbling churches give way to blossoming trees, empty storefronts to towering mansions. It doesn't want just another heist movie or an illusion of cleavage. It's not accidental or meaningless. It wants to be known. In the end, no burden of the heart is ever lifted. The load isn't lightened. Fog-shrouded, crepuscular, dotted with indistinct pines and cedars, relatively incapable of fakery. Massless, order pad tucked in its pocket, dirty feet in the sand. The heart, its glowing get-up, contrasts with the world outside. So, well, those are two poems from a new collection that's called Sediment and Sentiment. It's 21 poems, and I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to read a couple of them to you. And again, poetry is accessible for everybody, and everybody's got a poem inside of them, so thank you.